of Universal Broadcasting Network.
You make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven.
A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UENradio.com.
Welcome to Both Sides Now, featuring the unconventional duo, Dr. Shirley and medium Kellee White. Two perspectives, one world. This is Both Sides Now.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Both Sides Now. I'm Dr. Shirley.
And I'm medium, Kellee White.
And today, we have John with us.
Hello.
Our wonderful engineer. And my BFF of all time, Steve, is here.
Hey!
Where have I been?
Where have you been?
You started an entire new show without me.
How did that happen?
I don't know, but it's a little sneaky.
How'd you find out?
Well, I got a memo from your booker. Why don't you be on this new show? It's a cool new show, great
I'm
ratings.
like, oops, you didn't send that to Steve, did you?
Yeah, it was me.
I know. I miss you so much. Love Kellee.
She's
Love
amazing.
Kellee.
I watched the entire show. I was late today because I was,
Watching old
shows from a couple weeks ago and came to the Rolanda show. She has a new book out, Destiny Lingers, right?
Yes.
And I got so
She's a
wrapped
great
up
guest.
in that show that I forgot to get in the car. So here I am now.
So here you are. So, no, I do. I mean, I miss you with you. You got me started on this whole thing. It was because of you.
Well,
And actually, you got me started too.
my gosh, that's
is
so weird
true.
because I haven't gotten one check in the mail. Not one check.
That was after.
I've
That's
been
when we
waiting
were
and
already-
waiting.
That's when we transitioned to friends.
Oh,
you know?
is that what it is? Oh, right. You don't pay
but-
friends. Okay.
But no, I mean, when my book came out, you brought me to the station to be a guest on Tony Sweet's
Right.
show.
Right.
And then I think you negotiated, or he asked if
Again,
I
no
wanted to do
check,
a
but
show.
that's okay.
No check.
That's all right.
No check. And then it was.
And here you are.
and-
Well, I came to give you some support that first day, and we ended up chatting on the air.
Yeah,
And having
because
this
I
whole
didn't-
other conversation.
Because there was no way I was going to do it by myself.
Oh,
I
you
was like,
could have
no,
done it
Steve,
by
you
yourself.
can't. You can't. You have to do it with me.
You could have absolutely done it. I just was
And
having
but
fun with
we
you.
just had so much fun
We
and
did.
bantered back and forth, and it was
Almost
so
3
fun.
years on the air.
Wow.
Almost 3
Wow.
years.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
guests. Amazing guests.
We had some great
a
guests.
lot of fun. Learned a lot about ourselves.
And because
sure
of
did.
the show, we learned about what?
You said learned a lot about ourselves. I
Oh,
said you
yeah.
sure did.
Probably too much.
Yeah.
Probably too much.
We had some interesting
some of those
guests.
things I
Yeah.
could have not ever learned about myself, quite frankly. But
Better left unlearned. But we did. We did a show on public speaking.
we did.
And why was the number one fear?
Yes.
And then, of course, you came up with, we should do a book called Scared Speechless.
Again, no
because
check, but
you
that's all right.
Well, they're going to start
we're
coming
gonna get
now.
a check.
They're going to start
We're gonna
coming
get a
now.
check.
But I mean, I was telling Kellee, he's the most wittiest and smartest person I've ever met. This
Wow.
just kind of, Scared
title?
Speechless, I'm going to do show
perfect.
the book.
Yes. Uh-huh.
But you just came.
How
it
did
was like
how
this.
did you come up with that title?
I have no
It's
idea. Like you said, I'm
fabulous.
just a genius. And these things just come to me out of the blue. I don't know. Maybe
But-
you could answer that
Yeah,
for me,
maybe I
Kellee White
can.
Medium. Yes.
But you know what, though? They do. Because even when you were doing publicity for my book, you would come up with these one-liners. And even for the show, these one-liners that
Well,
were
it was
hilarious.
fun, right?
But it has to be in you. I mean, I think you
Yeah.
love this stuff.
I
mean,
do love
it-
this stuff. I'm
it's your
passionate about
passion,
it.
yes,
And
yes.
when I'm behind a project like our show, you just click, click, click. And I'm good
Yeah.
under pressure, especially. So
Yeah.
we wrote this
Yeah.
book in 10 minutes.
And then you had to go off and be the publicist for the Oscars. And
Yes.
left
Wow.
me behind, but
yes.
that's okay.
A couple
I
weeks
picked
ago
up
was
the
my
pieces.
last
Oh, you guys
my
have
last
been busy.
day on the Oscars. Yes.
How was that?
It was huge.
Yeah.
I
It
did.
was
I mean,
it
you
was
were
huge.
the publicist for the Oscars.
Wow.
That's why are you scaring me now?
It was no. it was,
yes. So this was my 9th year working the Oscars.
Wow.
And the first time as the show publicist.
Yeah.
So before I was on the host committee, the talent relations committee, then worked in PR last year. And this year they invited me into the big seat and I took it.
Wow.
And
Was that a
I
lot of
leaped.
pressure?
Well, we are broadcast live into 225 countries and territories around the world, and an audience of 900 million people. You tell me if there was pressure.
Wow.
2,000
Yeah.
credentialed media.
I guess that my invite to anything, even
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Vanity Fair
Yeah,
party.
about
you missed
that.
it.
anything
Yeah.
must have got lost in the mail.
It's so weird. We didn't have your address. We couldn't find you.
You moved. You did move.
I wouldn't think of sending it to the station, of course, because you don't have a show.
Well,
Could've
so
sent it over there.
Yeah,
But anyway, so this book came out of one of our shows.
yeah, it did.
How did it come up?
It did.
I mean, was
I
the
think
topic
after
speaking?
I'd never considered. I've taught public speaking, coached it for years and years and years. Done
Yeah,
it for
because
years
that's
and years.
another passion of yours. I mean,
Love it. Mm-hmm.
Let me brag for you because I know
please
you have a
do.
hard time bragging.
Talk about my students,
He
though.
was number 7 nationwide in college when he was doing public speaking. So he not only knows how
Wow.
to teach it,
Out of 7.
he
out of
lived
7.
it. He's not only what is it? He's not only a member, but he's a client too.
Well,
But
it was.
out of you were the top 7
I did
of the
okay.
top 10 nationwide.
Yeah, I did okay.
Yeah.
I did okay.
And his students are winning nationwide
That's
too.
what I love to talk about
Yeah,
because I've been teaching part-time at colleges and universities for the past 6 or 7 years, and my students, holy crap, they have done phenomenally. Stephen was on our show,
That's
right?
because of your tutelage, though. I mean, it really is.
Well-
Stephen is the sweetest,
Yes.
sweetest kid I've ever met. He's the first one to go to college, right? And he
His
won
family.
the nationals.
Mhm. He's
And
a
he
national
got
champion.
Right? Yeah. And he won a full ride to what is it,
Wow.
Now is
University
it
of Texas?
University of Texas at Austin, which is they're huge. They are the
huge.
number 2 ranked speech school in the country.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're incredible, and he's holding his own. He's now a Texas state champion. How do you like that? He's not even from Texas.
Wow.
I know.
Amazing.
And I texted him and I said, not bad for a kid from East LA, right?
Yeah.
Now you are.
Wow.
I mean, and,
Texas
and it's
national.
so
well, he'll
state-
go far
state
with
champion.
that. That's amazing.
Well, he already has.
he is.
It's one of these
There's
great
Steve.
equalizers.
I mean,
there you
there's,
go.
yeah, Stephen.
Public speaking is a great equalizer, though. It doesn't matter where you come from or who you are. If you put into it, everything you have and really try to learn and do, you can rise above. And we know that public speaking can transform lives, right? Because, look, you get hired faster, you make more money, you land that promotion, the doors open for you.
Yeah.
And because most people don't want to do it, right? So if you're willing to do it, step up and do it.
how
guess
did you
what?
get there? Who was your mentor or coach, or were you always, was it easy for you?
Well, I came out of the womb speaking.
Okay.
So that's...
I would believe that.
Yeah. Now, you know what? I was kind of a shy kid. I am an introvert in some ways. Shirley, well, I am. I am. So I was kind of quiet and unsure of where I was supposed to be in life. I was a kid of color in a place growing up in Montana and northern Idaho, which I love. Love those places. But I was one of very few Asian Americans in that land of greatness. So I always sort of felt like the other and wanted to either blend in or stand out in some way. And I wandered into drama and speech, and it absolutely changed my life. Absolutely changed my life. My
Did
high
it come
school-
easy for you?
You know what? I had great mentors. I had a great coach and great peer coaching. And my high school was top in the state. We were state champions, and that year we won every single event. And I became a state champion.
Wow.
And then I went to college and did okay there. Went to Arizona State and was a grad assistant getting my master's degree and coached kids there. And just kept going.
And tell me about, or tell us about the standing ovations that you got.
Well, I like to give myself standing ovations every time I do well. Walk into a room, standing ovation. Open my email,
Say
standing
it.
ovation.
Say
Well,
it.
it's interesting because, am I getting a standing ovation right? I gave my commencement speech in college, and that was my largest audience by far. It was about 8,000 or 9,000. Wow. And they stood up for me at the end,
Yeah.
which was shocking. Absolutely shocking to me. And I thought, oh, maybe there's something here. And of course, that was the training that I had, that I was able to get up and do that.
Yeah.
And then later, a few years later, I was asked to speak to high school students in the Louisiana Superdome. And it was 38,000 high school students. Wow. So I was on a little stage surrounded by 38,000 kids from all over the country. And they stood up for me there, too, after a 20-minute 20-minute little,
Wow.
And these are
little
high school
talk.
kids. They
I
don't
know.
stand out for a lot of people. Let me tell
But they
you.
were very
must have really
generous
reached
and
them.
very,
Yeah.
I felt a connection with them, and I was able to find a way to speak to every person or most people as I possibly can, in that room, and that was a gift for me to be able to do that. I was scared out of my mind, to get up there, and then as I got up to the stage, I remember just being grateful that I could be there. I remember that moment. I was walking up the stage and I said, I am so blessed right now. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you. And I got up and they were very, very generous and very responsive. And here's the thing, they had different speakers every night. Mm-hmm. And I had gone the night before and I wanted to see the layout. I wanted to see how this was set up. And I remember seeing there was a woman on the stage, great speaker, but she's tiny, teeny, tiny on this little stage and, sort of stood behind a podium. And I went back to the guys backstage and said, I don't want a podium. And can we put big, huge screens above my head so they can actually see my facial expressions? Mm-hmm. And so even if you were sitting in the nosebleed seats, you could still see how I was moving my face, right? Mm-hmm. And that was something that I'm sure was very, very helpful by the time I got into that room. Mm-hmm. Wow. And I didn't stand behind a podium. I walked around.
Right, which is exactly the advice that you give in the book, because I think what's great about it when you came up with the idea, I said, oh yeah, I'll write about the brain and, why it's so scary, okay, nobody really cares, but they want to know about how to do it. And the great thing about you is you not only teach it, but you've done it. And so from both angles, because some people are, know something really well but can't teach it well. Or some people teach something really well but have never really done it themselves. Right. They've just studied it, and you've done both.
Well, thank you. But Dr. Shirley, this book it changed my life too. I was teaching public speaking and I'd done that for years, but I'd never really thought about the psychology part of it until that show. Because everybody's scared. Everybody says, oh, I can't do public speaking, I'm too scared. End of story. Yeah. Or they try to somehow make their nerves go away. Mm-hmm. Or they've been told different ways to adapt to an audience. But nobody really got into the psychology of it, and I was fascinated. So I took this bits of information I was getting from this show, and I incorporated it into the classroom, and that's how we started creating this book. Because Dr. Shirley will tell you exactly why we are scared to get up and speak, and why nerves are good. Yeah. And we're never told that. And no book will ever tell you that to embrace your nerves and to be thrilled you have nerves.
Tell me about that.
Well, if you don't have nerves, you're dead.
Yeah.
Nerves are your natural defense mechanism. It's the fight or flight, right?
Well, it's funny you said that. When I was in college and I had to take speech, and ironically, my boyfriend was the professor.
Well, this is getting more interesting by the minute.
Actually, yes, yeah. And he said to
it.
me, he's dead now, so I can say this. So he said to me, if you just get up and give one speech, I'll give you an A. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give me a C or a D, and I'm not gonna do it. And he said, I won't do that. I was that terrified. So do you know what? Wow. After the first class, when I was too terrified, I actually left and ended up taking philosophy instead.
Oh, yeah. People
I could
do
not
everything.
do anything to get away from it.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Even if it's required, people will avoid it at all costs.
At all costs.
And they do. They won't promote because they don't want to, or they'll take, they'll get out of a class
That's right.
maybe that you loved and take another class.
That's right.
how scary
it was terrible.
public speaking can be.
Right, and in the workplace, they do the same thing. Mm-hmm. They'll say, oh, well, Bob will do it, and then they hide in the bathroom. They just don't want to put themselves out there.
Yeah. Right.
But once you do, then,
So tell me about the nerves. Why is that? Like, if I had somebody like you, maybe I could have done it. But my nerves got so high that I literally left the room and never came back.
Yeah, we think nerves are bad. Nerves are fantastic. If we didn't have nerves, we would be walking into the intersection of a busy traffic
street,
section, right?
True.
And we wouldn't be alive today. Nerves are good, and that's the first thing you have to understand and be grateful for having those nerves.
So to be grateful for that, for that terrifying feeling.
Be grateful for it.
All
Know that it's
right.
going to come. Guess what? And we're so surprised, right, when it comes every single time. Even when we think about public speaking, we think, oh my gosh, now what's happening? Oh, my hands are getting a little sweaty. My face is turning beet red. My mouth is getting dry. All of these physiological things are happening, and we're shocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it freezes us.
Yes.
But we know that it will happen, yet we're shocked when it happens,
That is a bit nutty.
right?
Yeah.
So you know you're going to be nervous. You're nervous. Check.
Yeah, exactly.
Your face
Name it to
turns
tame it.
right, beat red.
Yeah.
Okay, your face turned beat red. You knew it was going to happen, but you're shocked. You're so
Yeah.
shocked, right? And it's being able to stand on your own and get through that, and being able to understand that nerves are good. The other thing we talk about in the book, Scared Speechless, is that the audience is not your enemy.
Well, that's a great
I
thing.
love
See,
that.
that is so important because people, you all of a sudden, well, I think that that's why I think the combination is really nice, because when I found out the why of stuff, it all of a sudden made it easier to deal with. So when we find out why it scares us so much, and then you give the tip, but wait a minute, the audience wants you to succeed.
Oh, yes,
and
they
then
do.
the wonderful examples that you give in the book, about when I'm listening to someone, I don't want them to mess up, and when they mess up, I get nervous for them.
That's right. It's
Oh, I
secondhand
know.
embarrassment,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
So you've been in situations where you have watched a speaker and they're going along fine, and in 1946 there was, and everybody in the audience is on the edge of their seat,
Right, going,
and they're trying to put words in this person's mouth.
Right.
Flu,
Right.
taco, because it's so uncomfortable. They're your champion. And the reason we think that we're going to be judged is because we judge other people all day long.
Right.
So we think that's going to be turned on us. The other reason we know that the audience is not your enemy, unless you're in politics,
Yeah.
is because when is the last time you said, gee, I hope this speaker's boring? I need to kill 2 hours of my life.
So true.
I hope they're not entertaining. I hope they don't make me laugh. That would be awful. We want to be entertained,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So your audience is not your enemy. They are rooting for you because they want to be entertained. It's
Right,
a very
because they're
selfish
selfish.
reason, right? But
gosh.
that is the other reason why your audience is not your enemy.
Yeah.
And so you go back and you say, okay, well, nerves are good. Physiologically, things are going to happen. Be prepared for it. And the audience is not your enemy.
I mean, 3 tips, boom, 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 that can immediately start to help you feel a little bit calmer, or at least not so afraid, to public speak. And, just the way he talks is kind of the way we wrote the book.
Wow.
And it's so funny because I told him while I was writing my parts of it, I would channel Steve. Okay, how would Steve talk? And then I'd get all witty and stuff.
And I would say, did I write this or did you write this? And we couldn't remember who wrote what. And
Right,
it was
yeah.
it was great. It was
Yeah,
fantastic.
It was great. It was, I mean, the other than the crunch of, okay, the book needs to be done in 30 days, right? Other than that, it was really a fun process because we'd share it with each other. He would share me his parts, and then, I would share my parts, and then we ended up, really had kind of the same voice.
Yes, it was very
wow.
collaborative.
Yeah.
And that was the coolest part about this. I've never written a book. This is my first book. Now, Dr. Shirley has several titles. In the Library of Congress and other places, but this
Just
is my
one
first
other.
time,
Yeah.
but a great book.
Isn't that
And,
exciting?
it's I'm not even thinking about it that way. It's very odd. When the books came in the mail, I know that a box arrived, and I was still working at the Oscars, and I thought, I wonder what that big box is. Didn't open it.
You did the
Didn't
same
open it.
thing. Uh-huh.
Did not
I
open
know.
it. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's bad or good. I just didn't open it. But it was, it's such a. It was something that just unfolded for us.
Yeah,
it really did.
From the day that we decided to do a show because public speaking was your area of expertise, and stuff came up just in the conversation of it, right? And why it's so scary and that kind of stuff. And then it was
And
your
then
idea.
we had, the manager. We had the literary agent who shopped it around, and then this great publishing company called Career Press.
Yeah.
Back east
Wow.
saw fit to publish it.
And I have to say, without sounding like I'm bragging, but the editor gave us the nicest compliment. She said it was one of the, one of.
We're the best looking author she's ever worked with, I think is what she said.
No. She
Okay.
she said that it was the most entertaining, best book that she had ever reviewed.
Wow.
Did she say that?
Yeah, she said that. She
That's a
said
big
that.
deal.
That wasn't my mom? Okay.
No, she said, and I was, it was such a wonderful compliment because she, is an editor, so she reads a lot of books, and for her to say it was because it is very funny. I mean,
Well, we wrote
write,
for somebody to be reading this,
Okay.
right? Not to be a textbook.
To be-
We're
exactly,
writing for a
yeah.
real person, and that's how we want you to put your speeches together.
Yeah.
We write our speeches to be said, not to
Yeah.
be read.
Right.
And a lot of times people get in trouble, English majors get in trouble with this. They'll write an essay and they'll get up and deliver it, and it is very boring.
Yeah.
Because the sentences are way too long and the
Yeah.
structure is way too tight and you're no longer speaking. So the book really is this voice speaking to this person who's maybe, on a plane or hanging out in the library, at the gym, wherever,
Yeah.
and it's speaking to them.
There will be a few little laugh out loud moments because even as I was reading it for the I'd forgotten some parts. And you have to do the last read, and there was some places where I did chuckle because it's just it's
funny.
But one of the things that you suggest in there, which I thought I didn't even know when you were writing the part about the different tips and stuff, is to record and write it out loud. Because then you're writing it as you would talk, and so then it's a very different speech
That's right.
than
Right.
writing it down and then reading it.
Right, because we're
Yeah.
taught everywhere that we write the speech and then we practice it. Well, that's silliness because by the time you write the speech and then you get up to practice, you don't have time to rewrite anything if it's not sounding great, right? So you have to be able to finish the sentence. We'll write a sentence and it's a great sentence, but it takes 6 breaths to get through it.
Right.
And that's not a great line for a speech, right?
Yeah.
So in a speech, you will have one word, no. That's it. But you'd never see that in an essay.
Yeah.
So when you're writing it, you can practice the way you are going to deliver it and how the rhythm moves throughout the speech. So by the time you are finished, you get up and you already have it and you have the rhythm and you've worked out some ways to deliver the speech. Because most people will spend 99% of the time writing the speech
Right, researching
and less
and
than
writing it.
1%
You're
of the time
absolutely right.
practicing it, and they think
Yeah.
that that's fine.
Yeah.
It's completely not fine.
Yeah.
You can never practice too much.
Yeah.
You cannot practice enough.
That's
and
so
everybody
true.
who's ever given a speech in the history of time will tell you that on the drive home, they could do the speech better, and they wished that they had practiced 1, 2, 100 more times.
Yeah.
You cannot
Wow.
over-practice. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah. So
Amazing.
So Steve did a great job in
Oh.
helping people how to come up, with an outline, and then that's when you start to fill in the outline.
Right.
You're saying it out loud, so you can start to speak it. I mean, it's just It really has. I mean, wonderful, wonderful tools that help people. Because some of the stuff I didn't even know. Not that I don't have to give a lot of speeches, and so I didn't even know some of the stuff as I was writing the parts.
But
that
here's
you've
what I
written.
didn't know, which helped me so much from the show that we did, was that the inner critic. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh,
that
yeah.
inner critic who says,
Bless you.
you get up and no, you can't do it, and oh, they're going to laugh and you're going to fail, and that inner critic is at us and at us and at us, and it gets louder and louder the closer we move to danger. That again is a natural response,
Yeah.
and you have to tell it to go away.
How do you do that
well,
with your inner critic?
We give examples of how to do it. My way of getting rid of it is to yell at it.
Oh. Okay.
Just yell at it. Go away, or leave me alone. Come back tomorrow. You can negotiate with it. I know you got to do your
Right.
job. I get that, but the
Yeah.
tiger is not here. Okay.
Well, and that's just
Wow.
it. It's also understanding that the reason the inner critic voice is actually trying to keep you safe.
Right.
So it's actually your friend, not your enemy.
But we already know that nerves are good and the audience is not your enemy. So safe from what?
right.
Safe from what? And people say, well, Steve, what if I forget something? And I say,
Right.
well, who cares? Especially my students in class, I said, okay, you are not going to lose points if you go blank. If you can stand up there for 2-3 minutes, you will not lose points. You can do whatever you want. You can't lose points. I will not take points off for it.
Boy, that's very freeing right there. Just saying that.
But then I say, the only way you're going to lose points is if you walk out of the room. You can stand up there. You can smoke a cigarette. You can have a drink. You can make love. Do whatever you want. But don't leave the room.
Yeah.
Or you're going to lose points. So I've had students who just shake it out, sing a little song, jump up and down, and the audience goes crazy for that.
Yeah.
They're so behind people when that happens because they're fighting. They're in the fight, right? And that's such a wonderful thing to witness. Somebody who's going to fight for their right to speak.
Yeah.
What's one of your funniest stories with your students, if you're allowed to share any of that?
Yeah, I think it was one of my students that I had. Her name was, I will not say her name, but her name was Mo. And she's wonderful, wonderful young woman. And she was scared like all the other students were to speak. And she just didn't really want to do it. And I said, Mo, but you can't lose points if you forget your spot. She's like, okay. She gets up there, she loses her spot, and she starts shaking. Woo! And she makes all these crazy animal noises. The class was out of their mind. They were so excited for her. And she got back on track. She let it go.
Wow. Wow. So the fear went out when she was shaking.
Right.
Yeah.
You let people do what they need to do. Because that is an authentic speech. I always tell my students, I don't want a perfect speech. Please don't give me a perfect speech. That's Stepford Wives. That's robot.
Right.
Give me an authentic, passionate, heart-filled speech. That is truth.
Yeah.
That is truth. That's what I want to see from my students.
And then going, into the brain, what gets associated then is the fact that she got over it and was able to finish her speech. And that's what the brain's going to remember. And so the next time she has to give a speech, it'll be a good association.
You're right.
If she would have just froze and left, that's the association. So that girl would never give
she
a
would
speech
never come
again.
back,
great.
Exactly,
It's
exactly.
great.
So the brain makes association and makes association with how it gets repaired. If we repair it right away. So it really is. I mean, it's a nice combination of what happens and why.
Well,
and
here's-
my left brain is a stickler for the why.
Right.
If I
It's like-
understand the why, then I can move forward.
But I didn't really understand the why until Dr. Shirley started
would
explaining
you say
things.
that this is more, giving a speech is possibly more left brain than right brain? I mean, right brain to me is when you don't memorize anything. You can just get up and start to talk.
Here's what a speech is, an all-body experience.
Yeah.
One of our tips is warm up. And I asked people, I said, are you an athlete? Yes. What do you do? I'm a runner. So would you think about getting on the trail without warming up? No, I would not. Why not? Because I'd injure myself. Okay, football players, would you consider not warming up? No, never. Coach would always have us warm up. Why not? Because I would injure myself. Public speaking is a physical experience. Wow. It's physiological. We know it's physical. Things are happening, right? You tense up. Your mouth goes crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know it's a physical experience. So we tell our body, get ready. Something's coming. So by the time you're ready to tighten up, you're already loosen up. You're ready to go. And stretch out, full body stretch, right?
Yeah.
It's a mind, heart, body experience.
Yeah.
And that's how you give, a full rounded speech.
Right. And the body, 80% of the information is coming from the body to the brain. So if you do the
That's
physical
right.
exercise that Steve
The
suggests,
vagus nerve, right?
then the brain,
I learned
exactly.
something.
The
yes.
vagus
The
nerve.
vagus nerve, right. And so then you're letting the brain know, hey, we're relaxed, we're okay, we can do this. I mean, there's a wonderful, that we reference in the book, a wonderful TED Talk by Dr. Cuddy, right? Ann Cuddy, I think her name is. And she talks about the power stance. Like if you're about to go in to get a promotion or even do a speech, you do a power stance, either the Wonder Woman stand, or the Rocky
Right.
stand, or even before the interviewer comes, you lean back on the chair and you put your feet on the table like, you own the place kind of thing. That communicates to the brain, you've got this.
Wow.
And if you do that 5 minutes before walking in to something that you're about to do that makes you nervous, you can feel completely different. And so those are some of the tips and some of the examples because the body communicates to the brain. It's not the other way around. So if you tell yourself, relax, you've got this. Well, I don't know, but if your body's relaxed,
Right.
And if you don't believe it, if you're on the way to something really horrible and not looking forward to it, and you start smiling like a crazy person, you're driving like this, you're a crazy person, right? By the time you get there, chances are very good that you've changed your mood.
Yeah.
You've changed your mood.
and we
It
back
works.
that up
True.
again with research. They did a research where they had, I don't have a pencil right now, but they had people, put a pencil, hold a pencil with their teeth, and it automatically makes your mouth kind of go into a smile.
Wow.
Right? And then they showed them videos, and the ones that were holding the pencil scored them more positive than the other ones. And so that showed that even the muscles in our face can communicate to the brain.
That's right. And your
In a
words
good
come
way.
out differently.
Yeah.
And that's why I always say when you're doing an interview, especially a phone interview, smile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it changes the way
And you can tell. I can tell when I'm talking
come
on the
out.
phone if someone's smiling. Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
see it. The other thing that I learned from you, which is close to that inner critic, is that negative self-talk. When you talk out loud to yourself during the day, You're not a crazy person. Maybe you are. Most people are not
Well,
crazy.
it's when
and
you
they say
answer yourself.
Well, there's
I don't
that.
know.
That's
Well,
when
wait a
it
minute.
kinda
I don't know. I
crosses the
talk to
line.
dead people, so I don't know.
Okay, so Kellee White aside,
Exactly.
okay, and James von Prague aside, you know, and we talk to ourselves, and research has shown that we are teaching ourselves something. So I asked young women, especially, I said, well, what did you say to yourself during the day? Most of them would say, when they admit to it, they say, I look so fat today. I'm so ugly.
I'm a moron.
I'm a moron. Guys will say, I'm an idiot. I'm terrible at this. And you're teaching yourself this over and over and over again. You are saying things to yourself that your mother or father would cry if they heard you say it.
Or unfortunately, they're the ones that said that to you, which is what put it in your mind.
But you
which
would
is
never
unfortunate, but
yes, and that happens too, but you would
Yeah.
never even say that to somebody else.
you would never say it.
You would never say it. But it's so easy for you to say crappy things to yourself during the day. And then students will say, or people we work with will say, well, how do we stop that? It's just such a habit. Well, yeah, okay. We talk about habits too. And I said, it's very easy. You stop.
I say that
You
all the
Stop.
time.
stop
Just
it.
You
it.
stop.
Right.
And I give people an exercise, and we talk about this in the book too. And I say, tomorrow, one time, one day, tomorrow, the moment you start saying something negative about yourself out loud, stop yourself.
Wow.
One time, one day. That's
Yeah.
all you need.
Yeah.
Just try it. They said, I don't have to keep going. I said, you can cuss yourself out for the rest of the day. I don't care. Just do whatever you need to do. One time, one day. And the awareness will shock you.
Yeah.
Wow. So this book is not just about giving speeches. I mean, it really is about self-worth and having empathy for yourself and learning about yourself,
Yes.
non-judgmental
Confidence.
things about
Yeah. It's
confidence,
tough.
self-esteem.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
And, we do have a section in the book about women especially and people of color, not invited to the table all the time, right? But young women will do things to sabotage their career or their relationships based on the way they speak. And I'm talking about the high-rising terminal or the uptalk where everything's a question. Everything's a question.
Yeah.
Even statements are questions. They're questions.
Oh, that's hysterical.
And so every time you talk like that,
Yes.
you are asking permission to speak, permission to have space, permission to do anything.
Yeah.
And why in the hell do you need to ask permission when you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company?
Yeah.
Stand in your power
Yeah.
and be careful. And speaking of power, we talked about the power stance. Women especially do this. They get into what we call the pretzel stance. And I can't show this on camera, but maybe later. They start twisting their
Their
legs
legs.
around each other like this.
Yeah. When they're
And boy,
standing.
what message does that send?
Yeah.
They're off balance.
You guys really need to get the sales figures up? Okay.
Was that a question?
Was it a question? What are you talking about?
Right.
Right?
Well, we even
So
talk about
it's very
dress.
important.
All the research that shows about what message you're sending with how you're
That's right.
dressing. So it's not about changing your own personality, but within that, understanding the messages.
Yeah, because here's the thing. We want people to own whatever superpower they have. In other words, if you're a big girl, you're a big girl, right? We have a chapter called, pardon me, your hair's on fire, which means if you get up to the front of the room and you are someone who is living with a disability that's visible, everybody sees it. So what do? You pounce on it. You make it evident and you bring it out in the open and everybody goes, they know they have a disability.
Oh, God.
But we had a student once who had an accent, a non-mainstream English accent. He was from India, and he was going to Alabama to give a speech, and he was very worried about it. And he said, what am I going to do? I've got this accent. I said, fantastic. The accent is your superpower. Own it. So he got up in front of all these business people in Birmingham, and he said, obviously, I can't do the accent, but he said, obviously, I was born and raised right here in Alabama with his Indian accent. And there was a pause, and then suddenly everybody
so funny.
burst out laughing because they know this isn't true, right? And then later on, he told a story about how he ordered room service, and because of his accent, things got a little messed up. So people in Alabama who go to New York City and order room service might have that same experience. So they were able to connect with him on the one thing he thought was his obstacle.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we always say, if you're extra tall, be extra tall. Stand tall. If you're extra small, be extra small. Own your superpower, because that is going to give you so much confidence and will tell the audience you're somebody worthy.
Yeah.
Wow. What a great tip.
Well,
Wow.
and what is it? Not confidence just isn't. I hate to say it like this, isn't sexy. So you fake it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you fake it until. I remember my first job was working at a group home with teenage girls who had been there. Some of them were there because they were placed because of child abuse, and other ones were placed because of juvenile delinquents. And you know, the first day I come in, one of the girls looks at me. She goes, "You're our new counselor," and walks away. And in that moment, I said, "Okay, either I pretend like I've done it all before, I've seen it all before, or I'm going to get eaten up." And that's what I did. And the girls turned and they started to respect me. And one of my supervisors there said, "You know, your attitude is what changed it." And let me tell you, I went home some nights and I was scared. One time, the girls told me that someone had brought a knife back from weekend visit. And I'm thinking, you know, butter knife or whatever. So I'm like, okay, well, let me see. You know, so I walk into the room, I do the pillow, and it's a knife, and it's this big. And I went, okay, really, the knife, you know, and I acted like nothing. But yeah, it's, you know, so it's exactly what we're teaching in the book, that it's really all about attitude. Fake it if you have to, but once you fake it and you see the response, then you start to, you know, really, you know, feed into that response, and then you start really being more confident, and it's more genuine, and all of a sudden it just becomes.
That's right. It becomes true.
Yeah.
It becomes true.
When you in your classrooms, when you teach it, the first one is probably the most difficult, and then how do the people respond to doing the second one? Are they more excited
They're
to
excited.
do it? Wow!
I have classes who say, we cannot wait to give the next speech.
Wow!
Yeah.
What a thrill for you!
And they come in terrified. It is absolutely
That's
wonderful.
amazing.
I was standing on the red carpet of the Oscars this year, toot toot, and it was crazy, and I was getting a little, you know, things were happening. And I looked down, I got an email from a former student who said, I just gave a speech in another class, and it was an impromptu speech, and I knew what to do.
Wow!
I knew what to do.
Wow!
And to me,
Yeah. I mean, that really is setting them up for life.
Yeah.
I hope
You're
so.
right. Oh yeah.
Because you cannot unlearn your skills.
Yeah.
You cannot unlearn how to give a speech because your body's already there. Your body has memory, right? We know this.
Yeah.
So you make your body do your bidding.
Right.
So during the Oscars and people are giving speeches, are you watching those speeches? Of
course I
and what are you watching for?
I'm looking for, you know, this is a personal thing because obviously I'm not going to, you know, gong them. Right?
Remember that show? I
Yeah, of
loved it.
course.
So I'm looking for the 70s. So that's what
Yeah.
that reference was for you, Dr. Shirley. 'cause
Thank you
You
very
seem to be living in the
much.
70s.
I
my
live in the
friend.
70s. I had such a
That's
crush
okay.
on that guy.
I know. Okay.
George Barris?
The little guy who used to gong.
Yeah. what
Yeah.
is his name?
Okay.
Something
Anyway,
else?
this
Okay.
has
Go on.
happened. So I'm looking for the heart, because the most boring speeches are the ones you just have a laundry list of people's names. But if you talk
Yeah.
about your grandma,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you talk about somebody who made a difference, those are universal stories that we can all relate to. One of the finest speeches of last year's awards ceremony was Viola Davis when she gave her Emmy speech, primetime Emmy speech. And she got up and she did exactly what, it's almost like we coached her. I wish we had.
Wow.
But she did exactly what you're supposed to do.
Which was?
A beginning, a middle, and an end. People don't have a beginning and a middle and an end. They'll start out with the beginning, they get to the middle and realize they don't have an end. So they walk off thinking, well, that's all I got. That's it. And they sort of walk back to their seat. She had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And she started out with what we call an attention getter, which was a story, which was a quote, a writing from Harriet Tubman. It wasn't, thank you so much. It wasn't, I want to thank the Academy. It was just these words came out, and she captivated the audience because they thought, what is happening here? And she's such a magical performer. Whew, the room just fell silent for her, and she was able to say what she needed to say, which is, we need some opportunities here. Women of color need a place here, but we need the roles, right? And we heard that because of the way she structured it, how she put that speech together, and it was so finely tuned and so elegant, but from the heart. it was not a canned speech. It felt like you're hearing something important right now. We have to pay attention to this. So I look for those things. You know, I think you need to prepare for these things. People say, "Oh, I don't want to prepare for an acceptance speech." Well, you better prepare for the acceptance speech.
Do they all prepare, or do they not?
Not all of them do.
Really?
But I would guess that at some point in their day, while they're getting ready to leave, to get in the car, they have started to work something out, because you never know.
Do people help them? I don't know what goes on back there. I mean, do people help
Well, it depends
them,
on who
or-
they are.
Okay.
You know, they might ask friends. They might ask a publicist or an agent or whatever. But most people want to use their voice, right? Viola Davis has a very specific voice, and you know that that's her voice. You know, and that's what made it so powerful. Is it was truth. It was the truth.
You do. I mean, those are the speeches that you remember. Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Are the ones that, you know, have an anecdote or something that people can relate
Story.
to.
We love stories. Tell a
The one where
story.
you're moved.
Stories are one of the most powerful speaking tools we have, because we have told stories since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
Before the beginning of time, in your case, right?
Yeah.
So, in cave people
Yes.
time and beyond that, right?
Yes.
And we have told stories to talk about our culture, or we've told stories to talk about our morals, or we've told stories to share our history, and we've passed these stories on. So our brain is set up to hear those stories and start identifying reference points in our own lives. And there are universal stories we all cherish and love.
Yeah.
Right? So the underdog story is a very powerful story for us. And they've done research where they've, you know, sat people down and they said, you know, okay, we're just gonna show you a series of these little drawings, right? And one of the drawings, the first drawing they showed, was this cartoon character pushing this big rock up a hill, struggling. And the second one they showed was a cartoon character going very easily up the hill, up to the top. And then they asked those people, well, who were you rooting for? Who were you looking out for? And inevitably, they said the underdog, the person who was struggling to get out there. And why is that powerful for us to see and hear? Why do you think that is?
Yeah. Well, I know the answer because I wrote
Yeah,
the
you wrote the book.
But go on. Well, because everybody's experienced that.
That's right.
I mean,
At
we
some
can-
point, we've
we
all
all
felt like
have,
the underdog.
yeah,
and
absolutely.
people say, well, you know, my underdog experience is well, yeah, of course, every underdog experience is different, but every person on this planet at one time felt like a fish out of water or an underdog,
Yeah.
But
no
and-
matter how rich or how
Yeah.
beautiful or how successful
And that's
you've
part of
been.
the reason why we root for the person giving the speech. We don't want them to fail.
That's right.
You know, and even if they're forgetting their lines, we're not going, oh God, you know, and walk away. At the end, we may come up with an overall, you know,
Right.
opinion about it.
Right.
But it really all depends on how they recovered. You know,
That's right.
But while we're watching it, we want the person to
Right.
do well, or we want the person to succeed. Right.
And we don't remember that they forgot someplace. We just,
Yeah.
it totally goes away.
Yeah, because the you know what we're going to say is, oh my God, that was an awesome speech. At one point he forgot, but he did this and this and this, and he recovered.
it was
great.
hilarious. Yeah.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. So that'll be part of the story, but it'll be part of the story about how great it was.
And how he overcame something.
Yeah.
So if you can tell a story about that within your speech that applies to your topic, you know, it's a wonderful thing because people get it and they can say, okay. And it provides a door, an entree into whatever you're talking about. You know, the universal story will open that door for people to step in, and now they're in your world. So even that person who is so different from you in all ways, that person who has that accent is maybe from India and is totally different from you, you have that same thing happen to you because you're from Alabama, because you have that accent, and boy, something came up from room service that you'll never forget, right? So now you're in his world, you're there together, and he can share his story, and you're responsive, and you learn.
Yeah. Didn't you tell me when you were in graduate school about a teacher that would announce every time that she was nervous about speaking in public? Was it you or someone
I don't
told me
think
this
it was
teacher
me.
had been teaching for 25 years, but every day on the first day would announce, okay, I'm terrified of public speaking, so sometimes I might get a little anxious or whatever, so just know it. And then she'd go, and she'd give a great class,
She'd be fine.
you know, but she announced it at the beginning to and it kind of lowered her anxiety because now they know, so I don't have to, and I'm sure the students didn't care, you know, but it was, I thought you had told me that.
Yeah, I
Maybe
may have.
someone else, but I thought that was fascinating. It's part of some of the stuff that we talk about in the book
yeah.
is how to do that. And it's what you're
So you can
referring
actually
to.
say when you're up there, I'm a little anxious right now, but you
Right.
wouldn't do. Would you do that in a speech?
No, I wouldn't call attention to it.
Yeah, not for the speech,
No.
but I
Okay, but
mean,
just-
for
Yeah.
in this case, she called attention to something that she thought
Yeah,
was
but
gonna
that was her
ruin it.
superpower. That was what she saw as them just a glaring
Yeah.
detriment to her.
Yeah.
You know, she
Right.
saw it far more than anybody else did, I'm sure. But she needed to name it to tame it, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's it.
Oh, I like
you
that
know, one of
name
those incredible
entertainment,
things.
Yeah, that wasn't mine. That's a neuroscience term.
That's a good one.
So I'm so glad. It feels like old times, having you
This is
on here.
great.
I really, really miss doing the shows with you because it was, I mean, we had, we learned so much. We had such great guests, and it was a different, now I'm learning so much from spirituality and seeing, viewing things that way, which I love because I'm really learning a lot. And I take, similarly to what you
She's
said.
even doing
you would-
readings herself.
Yeah, I have.
My. Okay.
But similarly to what you said, where you would take some of the stuff that you would learn about the brain to your students in the
Absolutely.
classroom, I'm doing the same with Kellee. With you, I learned different things. You always learn different things from different
course.
people. And how you've excelled in this area that you're so passionate about is just, it's
that's
just wonderful.
that's why I think, because it is so incredible to see somebody go from scared, speechless to somebody who can get up and stand in their power. It is
Yeah.
it's remarkable, and they are now free.
Yeah.
Free to do what they need to do, free to be who they need to be out in the world, without this fear
Yeah.
that could hold them back from something like their destiny.
I mean, really is the number one fear.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So
Congratulations,
we-
both of
we
you.
can- we
Really,
can help
what
out a
a
little bit
great
in the world.
title. What a great
Thank you.
book. I think it'll help a lot of people. Really.
Yeah, we think so too. I mean, I'm really proud of it.
I'm proud of it too.
really am.
Yay.
I'm proud of it too.
Yeah.
I'm proud of it too for both of you.
So
It's a
next
big
time I teach a
deal.
class, I'm just going to hand them this book.
Do it. Do
and
it.
just check out for the semester. But
You
this
could
is
never
this is
do that.
no, I can never do that. But thank you so much for having me on
Oh
your
my
show.
gosh.
This is
Thanks for
amazing.
joining us.
Please, we were trying to get you. We were trying to go, okay, can you do it this day? No, I'm busy with the Oscars. Can you do it this day? No, I'm busy with the
I mean,
Oscars.
that's amazing too. Your life is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I will credit my journey through entertainment and Hollywood to public speaking. There is no way, no possible way that I would be where I am today without the coaches and the mentors and the experience of public speaking. There's just no way. There's just no way.
Well, I think it gives you this confidence that even as you're talking now,
Yeah.
This confidence and this ability to speak in a way. I mean, when we had Rolanda on a couple of weeks ago, she speaks the same way, and she studied it as well. Journalism. I mean, I think that's
That's
all
a
kind of
wonderful
related.
compliment. Thank you. That's Rolanda. That's a wonderful compliment.
But it does. She speaks kind of in a very not authoritative. Not authoritarian, but like an authoritative voice where you want to listen, and there's confidence and there's authority, and
And
Well, I believe
safety.
in
There's
it.
something about it.
Right.
It's a safe thing to
Yes.
listen to.
Well, interesting that you would say that, Kel.
Okay.
Because it is. We talk about that in the audience
do?
section. We do. Because, it's all about survival of the fittest. I mean, basically everything is, right?
We should have just
let's
called this
face
survival
it.
of the
I know,
fittest.
right? And
But I guess that might
And
also be a title for some
so-
other book. Yeah.
so when you're giving a speech, the audience is looking at that person as the authority on
Mm-hmm.
it. And we all want to be connected with the VIP or with the authority because that might keep us safer. From dying. And so that's why there's safety in it. We feel safe when we're hearing someone who has confidence, who's,
And you can see that it's possible. When you see a great speaker, you say, that is possible.
Yeah.
Somebody can do that, but everybody can do it.
True.
And that is the absolute truth. I've seen the worst public speakers in America
Yeah.
get up and give the most brilliant speeches ever because you can learn this.
Yeah.
You can learn
Yeah.
it.
It is definitely doable.
Wow.
Absolutely doable.
And-
So you don't have to take a Xanax to get up there.
You don't. I'm heavily medicated myself, but that's just recreational. No,
That's a different
you,
story.
you know.
Wow.
Why? Just use what you got.
Yeah.
The superpower. I
And
love
use
that.
your superpower.
Okay.
And dial into your brain and talk to your brain and say, we're going to do this thing. Let's go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And don't talk yourself out of it, right? Talk your way into the corner office, their promotion, their relationship, whatever it is, talk your way into whatever you dream about. It's possible.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
coming and sharing this with us. And I'm very proud of this book. I think that it will really be very helpful. The tips, the public speaking tips are, I think, amazing. I learned so much from them, from hearing it from you.
And Dr. Shirley, it was a pleasure learning so much from you. It made me a better teacher. That is for sure. You're one of my mentors.
Oh, you're
in,
so
in that
sweet.
regard. No, I learned a ton. And so this was a book that really helped me as well.
Yeah. Well, I love you.
Now it's time for the
And
hug.
just to time for the group hug. We'll do that after the cameras are off. And just to also plug in something that we're doing, we are doing a workshop.
A 2-day workshop.
2-day workshop, April 16th and 17th, called Expanding Self-Awareness Through Psychological and Spiritual Growth.
Yeah. Please join us in
And-
Los Angeles.
Go to Eventbrite, and you can look it up there. And
What do
sign
they
up.
search for if I was going to search for it at Eventbrite?
You can look just for Dr. Shirley or Kellee White. It will come up for both.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
thank
just
you,
did. I
John.
just went there and that's what I typed in. I typed in Dr. Shirley and it came up.
Okay.
Nice.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And it'll be fun. We'll be teaching about.
Spirituality, about your life, what you're here to do in your world, and
Yeah, kind of give you.
That
your
sounds
life
like a
meaning.
great
it's
workshop.
gonna be it's gonna be
people
really interesting
are
getting in
looking
touch
for
with your
that.
intuition and
Yeah, yeah. So hope you can join us. Thank you for listening, and have a wonderful afternoon.
bye bye.
Yay. All right, we're clear.
You've been listening to Both Sides Now, featuring the unconventional duo Dr. Shirley and Kellee White. Two perspectives, one world.